Hey, good morning. We're going to talk about kinetic and potential energy. What is the difference between them? So what is energy? Energy is defined as the ability to do work. Everything that happens in this world uses energy. Most of the time we can't see energy, but it is everywhere around us. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. It can only be stored or transferred. Batteries store energy. This car uses a lot of energy. We get our energy from food. Even the sleeping puppy is using stored energy. Remember, all matter is made up of particles. The particles never stop moving. How is all energy divided? Well, it's divided into two main topics, potential and kinetic. Potential energy is energy stored in an object. Potential simply means the energy has the ability to do something useful later on. Examples of potential energy: a stretched rubber band, a waterfall, a yo-yo held in your hand, a drawn bow and arrow. The higher an object, the more potential energy. The more mass an object has, the more potential energy it has. You have a brick and a feather. Which one has more potential energy? The brick does, because it has more mass than the feather, therefore more potential energy. Changing an object's height can change its potential energy. If you want to drop an apple from the top of these three things, where will be the most potential energy? A. The higher the object, the more potential energy. It's energy due to gravity, by the way. Potential energy converted to kinetic energy. When stored energy begins to move, the object now transfers from potential energy into kinetic energy. Kinetic energy is the energy of moving objects. Kinetic means movement. You'll know that kinetic is also the Latin word for momentum. So that was a unit that we covered recently. When stored energy is being used up, it is making things move or happen. Examples of kinetic energy: the faster the object moves, the more kinetic energy is produced. The greater the mass and speed of an object, the more kinetic energy there will be. When these objects move at the same speed, which one will have more kinetic energy? What do you think, the smart car or the 18-wheeler? If you said the 18-wheeler, you were right. It has more kinetic energy because it has more mass. An object that has the most kinetic energy when its movement is the greatest. When an object has the least potential energy, it has the most kinetic energy. A water bottle is knocked off of a desk. When does the bottle have the most kinetic energy? At the top of the fall? In the middle of the fall? At the bottom of the fall? At the bottom of the fall. It has the most kinetic energy when its movement and speed are greatest, which is at the bottom of the fall, right before it hits the ground. When an object has the least potential energy is when it has the most kinetic energy. And here's a brain pop video you can click on and watch. Roller coasters. When does the train on the roller coaster have the most potential energy? At the very top, because it is the farthest from the ground. The higher the train is lifted by the motor, the more potential energy is produced. At the top of the hill, the train has a huge amount of potential energy, but it has very little kinetic energy. One can assume that at the top of the hill, it hasn't started moving yet, and therefore that's why it has very little kinetic energy. As the train accelerates downhill, the potential energy is converted into kinetic energy. There is very little potential energy at the bottom of the hill, but there is a great amount of kinetic energy. When does the train on this roller coaster have the most kinetic energy? When it's moving the fastest. When does it have the least potential energy? At the bottom of the tallest hill. So, to sum up, all energy is divided into two types, potential and kinetic. Potential energy is the energy stored in an object. Kinetic energy is the energy of a moving object. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. It is always stored or transferred.